Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And in this case, we're talking about the power of clean water. That's why we're honored to have with us Elliott Stovall, founder and CEO of The Filter Project. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Absolutely. Well, we get to talk about the power of clean water, but this starts with you and your personal story. And so give us some background on what led you to launch The Filter Project.
Yeah, so again, my name is Elliott Stovall, CEO and founder. Was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I went to Briarcrest and University of Memphis, so I'm about as Memphis through and through as you can get. A member at Germantown Baptist Church here in Germantown, and always gone to church, but I would say that my spiritual walk for a point went through a kind of a rocky period, if you will. And over the last 3 years, I've just been really pouring into my relationship with Christ and growing through that. And, really had no idea about the water crisis. We are lucky here in Memphis to have the clean water and the wells here. And so we don't have to worry about it. And most places in America don't either. Most people in America wash their car with cleaner water than over a third of the world drinks. And so really how I found out about the water crisis was this past year, we had a pastor, Cristiano from Kenya, visit our church. And I had the opportunity to take him out to lunch. And at this lunch, I asked about his ministry and about his life in Kenya. And he, I just said, well, Cristiano, what does a day look like in your book? I've never been to Kenya. I pictured Africa having lions and elephants everywhere. So I just didn't really know. And I said, well, what's a day look like? And so he started his day of where they have to gather water for the family. And, I've seen National Geographic, so I've seen the people gather water and how they don't have running water. And then I said, well, Cristiano, tell me about how you clean your water. Because kind of ignorantly, I said, people don't drink dirty water. It's 2024, right, Jeremy? And he humbly said that, they do drink dirty water sometimes because the only way they have the ability to clean water is by boiling it. And if you've ever boiled a pot of noodles, you know that it takes a lot of energy just to boil a small pot of noodles, not to mention boiling all of the water that you will use to clean, drink, and consume for a day. And so I said, well, Cristiano, that's kind of puzzling to me. If you're not cleaning this water and you're getting it from just a collection point that you don't know what's been in this water, don't you get sick? And he humbly said that, yes, sometimes they do get sick. And he said that he has 6 children, but only 5 of them are living. One of his sons died before the age of 1 because of a heart defect that he developed from a medicine that his mother, when she was pregnant, not knowing she was pregnant, took, and that created a hole in the baby's heart. And so he died before the age of 1. And at this point, I really couldn't get past the rest of his day. And Jeremy, I'll just be honest with you. I heard God speak to me at that lunch. I've only heard the voice of God once before, and that was when I accepted Christ. But I heard the audible voice of God at that lunch, and it said to fix this. And so I had prior knowledge of a water filter called the Sawyer water filter. I have one here with me. It's attached to a bucket. And these filters will last over 1 million gallons of water, and they will clean the water and make it clean to drink. And so now we're able to drink it. And I just shared with Cristiano about this technology. And I said, well, Cristiano, I'm going to provide one of these filters to you. And so I went on Amazon and purchased one of these filters, and he was staying at a home nearby for his week here in Memphis. And I got him one, and I kind of thought at this point I was done. I thought that I had heard God and that check the box, right? Go about my day. But, God kind of works in ways that aren't really clear to us sometimes. And so I received about 8 days later, he had made it back to Kenya. And I received a video from Cristiano with this filter, drinking the clean water out of the filter. And he had his whole family in the background. And just to let the listeners know, if they don't know, Kenya is 8 hours ahead of us. And so right now, when we're speaking, they're asleep. And so I received this at 3 o'clock in the morning, our time. And I was on my couch and I watched this video that he had sent of him and his family drinking this clean water. And I was truly affected. And I felt God was pushing me and leading me to do more. And so I called my pastor, I called my dad, and just shared with them what I thought that what more was. I purchased 40 more of these Sawyer water filters and sent them to Cristiano. And again, I thought I was done. I'm several $1,000s deep in this. I feel like I'm done. But I started receiving photos and videos of Cristiano using these filters as an illustration of the gospel. Because we are dirty and full of sin, and Jesus is the filter and cleans us. And so I started seeing these pictures of these Kenyans and these individuals coming to Christ, and I was just moved. And so that is really the infancy beginning of the filter project. That's kind of me, and that's kind of why we're doing it. And so over the last, we're a young ministry, so we're about 7 months old. But over the last 7 months, I've been able to put a lot of stuff together, and we're distributing filters in Kenya now.
To me, it's such a great story of hearing about and being inquisitive enough to ask, right? Like taking that first step too, to learn, but then seeing a need, a challenge, and saying, I'm going to step in. And then all of a sudden, like you said, that's where the beauty unfolds, is you start getting involved and you realize, wait a second, this is making a huge difference. But it's also too, it's inviting, all of these new families and individuals to Christ. And so there's a lot of really, to me, important storylines here in terms of what you're doing and the impact it's having.
Yeah.
Touch on why the filters are so important versus the wells. I think there's a place for everything, but the filters, to me, allow for transportation, ease, and more convenience. So talk about why the filters are so critical.
Sure. So kind of like you alluded to, if you Google the water crisis, the world water crisis, over 2 billion people don't have access to clean water. And there's well projects, there's vase filters, there's sand filters, there's all these different mechanisms and technology to get clean water to people. But what we have come to find out is that not a lot of villages and not a lot of people pop up in deserts. Most of the time, there usually is some water source, whether that's around the corner or whether that's a mile away, but there's always some sort of water source. And so our goal is to provide, they're already having access to water. And so our job is to bring the filters to clean the water and to clean the water that they already have access to. One fact about wells is that what we have found, and through our research, is that over 50% of the wells that are dug after 2 years are non-functioning for various reasons, whether that's maintenance, whether that's the well's gone dry, and not necessarily when a well is dug, the water that it brings up is necessarily clean, just because there might be bacteria or sewage running around that water source. And so that is one reason why we have gone to filters. Another practical reason is, in order to sponsor a family, it's only $53, where a well is anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000. And it's a huge logistics just to get that well dug and to find the water table. A lot of geology and stuff is having to take place. Well, these are portable. That's another great thing. So a family can, if they happen to move, can take this filter with them. If they go to travel to in Kenya, what happens a lot is these families who live in the rural slums where we're working now, when they go to visit their family back in their tribal area in more of a rural Kenya, well, they don't have access to clean water there. And so they can take this filter with them to visit their family or to visit people. But the main reason why we use a filter is because it allows our missionaries who are working Monday through Friday, they're indigenous missionaries, but it allows them to have a personal relationship with this family. And so each family that we interact with gets a filter, and then each family then gets follow-up visits by our missionaries and are allowed to create a more personal relationship to cultivate the gospel presentation, and then to hopefully be able to lead that person to Christ and then to disciple them over the next month or so in their walk with Christ. And so there's several different reasons on why we use the filter. But the reason we use the Sawyer water filter is because it is the number one on the market. There was an independent study done several months ago, and they ran water through multiple different kinds of filters that use the same sort of hollow microfiber technology, which is the sort of the same as they use in dialysis machines. And Sawyer held up the best. The water, they actually did 30 years of water for a family, and it was still 99.9% effective, which is EPA standard. And so Sawyer is owned by Mr. Avery. He is a Christian, and he is committed to getting clean water to the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that you and your family have been underwriting this obviously since the very inception. And when you look at obviously the community getting behind you and supporting, you mentioned $53 per filter, but talk about the logistics in terms of, hey, how does the community support getting those dollars? And then obviously the logistics of making sure that they're getting to the missionaries and,
Right.
getting into the hands of those who need it.
So when we get filters and do a distribution, there's many steps in this. We're not just going to the city and going, here's some filters, good luck filters, and hope they get to the right spot, right? So we have a precise process of how we do our work in Kenya. And so I'll just start off with the steps. Before we start any sort of distribution, we do an assessment of the area and the community that we're working in, because for several reasons. Number one, we want to make sure to test the water that they're currently getting the water source that they're getting their water from. Because the last thing we want to do, again, just as human beings, but also as a ministry, is to tell these people, hey, this filter is going to clean your water, and it's not going to work. The only thing that this filter won't clean is it will not desalinate the water, so it doesn't take salt out of it, and it won't take any hard chemicals out of the water, such as arsenic or oils and stuff like that. And so we want to make sure that it'll do what we say it will do, number one. Number two, our assessment process is so we know how many filters in this community it's going to take to do the entire community. We're not picking and choosing. There is no quid pro quo. You don't have to become a Christian to get a filter. We minister to Muslims, to Christians, to people of no faith, witch doctors, black magic. Anybody gets a filter, because we believe that, again, as Jesus showed us in his ministry, he ministered to the people's physical need, and that pointed them to him. And so that's our goal. So after an assessment, after we figured out how many filters are going to need, how much money it's going to take, how long it's going to take, we start a distribution. A distribution starts with a ticketing event. So we have teams of missionaries, again, that are indigenous to the community that we're working in. They are, through that assessment process, they are found, usually using the local church that we're partnering with. Some of their members who might not currently have a full-time day job, but have the gift of evangelism. We will employ that person Monday through Friday. And when we employ that person, they go out and do a ticketing event. At this ticketing event, they hand a ticket to the individual, and the only requirement to get one of our filters is we have 3 non-negotiables. Number one, Jesus will be shared. Number two, we will be collecting data. And number three, each family will have a minimum of 3 follow-up visits after the distribution. So the family receives a ticket. Later that week, they're invited to the distribution. At this distribution, we do a group distribution, whether that's 20 filters, 100 filters, or Lord willing, 1,000 filters. They send a representative from that family. At this distribution, we make sure they know how to use the filter, know how to clean the filter. So in order to clean the filter, you take one of these syringes, you suck clean water back through it, and then you back flush it in that. And that's all you have to do to clean it. We share the Jesus film with them, about 15 to 20 minutes of the Jesus film, which is a film that was made in the 70s and describes the work and the life of Jesus. And then we do a good old-fashioned altar call and share the gospel with these individuals. At the end of the distribution, they meet again with the missionary that gave them the ticket and that invited them. We use an app called Survey 123, where we collect data about this individual, how many people in their home, what are the ages, how much they spend on water, how sick have they been on water, are they missing work, are the children missing school, those kind of things. And every one of our filters has a QR code on it. That is scanned, a picture is taken of the individual, and now that family is paired with that filter. Around 7 days later, after the distribution, the family receives their first follow-up visit from that missionary. Again, I'll say it again, but a relationship is being formed through this process. And so they will go and they will do this follow-up visit. Again, every family gets 3 follow-up visits over roughly a 6 to 8 week period of time. So 7 days following the distribution, 2 weeks after that, 2 to 3 weeks after that. And at these follow-up visits, this is where really the magic happens and where you get to see the Lord work through clean water. Because first of all, we do the simple thing of making sure they know how to use the filter. Are you using it? How are things going now that you've got this clean water? But then again, we use the app. Everything we do goes back to scanning, goes back to data collection, and we use GIS, GPS location to monitor the progress of our project. And then they share the gospel and do different devotion lessons in that home. Because just like here in America, we all are not on the same spiritual level. And so every follow-up visit has the same structure, but the details might look a little different. And so does that person know Jesus? Do they not? Are they a Muslim? And so we have all these different curriculums that we will work, that our missionary will use in that process. And then the final process of our distribution and our filter project is discipleship. So we try to get the individual plugged into a local doctrinal sound church. Hopefully they get baptized. And then we allow the local church that they're going to then to continue that discipleship through the process. So that's what it looks like. That's our process. And again, it's all tracked on our website, on our dashboard, and every individual filter is paired with a family, and you can click on it and check out all the locations of them.
Very, very cool. And I love just how deep, you talk about like the strategy of the process and how many steps there are, but how they all play together. Like, I think it's awesome. And so definitely we're going to have you come back, because there's so many questions I have in terms of like testimonials and feedback and progress and things like that. But we'll have you come back on again in the future. Wrap up with where we can go to learn more, though, to get involved with the Filter Project. So website, social media, where do we go?
Yeah, so we're on the web. We've got a website. It's thefilterproject.org. People can go there. There's videos that cover everything that I've covered today, who I am, why we do what we do, how we do what we do, why we use the filter. Again, they can see our dashboard. They can donate on there. It's got a donate button, and so we would love the support of that. And then it allows them, again, to learn more about what we're doing. We're on Instagram, _Filter Project. We're on Facebook at The Filter Project. And so we've got a lot of different ways that you can find us and partner with us. People always ask, how can I help? What can I do? And our first thing is we just want people to pray for us. tell the story of the filter project, and then obviously come along financially and donate. Again, $53 sponsors a family. That family will get anti-parasitic medicine, which is virtually a dewormer. They'll get a 5-gallon bucket that this filter attaches to. They will get a filter. And then that $53 also pays to sponsor our missionaries and for the technology that we use. And so only $53 to provide a family with the gospel and over 1 million gallons of clean water.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Well, Elliott, thank you for all you, your family, your team, all of you do to power the good and make a difference. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate you for having us. And thank you to your listeners for taking the time to listen. And again, thefilterproject.org. We'd love to share the story and would love the support and love to get the story out.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.